Well, good Wednesday afternoon, everyone. I'm Scotty Powell here with the Carolinas weather discussion. It is May the 14th, 2014 at 8 p.m. So thank you for tuning in to the Carolinas weather discussion. This show is a group of meteorologists who get around and kind of talk about weather events throughout the Carolinas, North and South Carolina, as well as Virginia. And tonight's topic is going to be the potential flooding and severe weather threat that's to affect all of North Carolina, South Carolina, and Virginia tomorrow. So first things first, I want to kind of give up an update with one of our panelists, Steve Monday, is on a bit of a break from the panel and the show. We're hoping that he will return at a later date, maybe this fall, but right now he has decided to step off and do some other things. So we wish Steve the best and hope that he can return shortly. But besides that, I will start us off, and I am Scotty Powell. I work for Burke Weather. Also covered Caldwell, McDowell, and Catawba counties. But to talk about Catawba County and a couple other counties, I'm going to toss it over to Joey Mosteller.
Toss it to me. Yeah, Catawba County, Joey, Catawba County weather. You guys probably know me by now. If you don't, then I don't know why you haven't. What have you been doing all your life? But anyway, I guess the weather this week was, I guess Saturday was a little eventful. We had a severe thunderstorm warning. Didn't really turn out to be anything real serious. I think maybe that was a little bit of small, like pea-sized hail. I don't even think it verified anything severe as it passed over us, but we did have a little bit of a warning right in the middle of our spotter training class, believe it or not. How's that for trial by fire? Hey, guys, you're getting to be spotters, and there's a severe thunderstorm, so go outside.
And not to cut you off, but we did have the storm warning coordinator doing our class, so that was kind of a coincidence as well.
Yeah, I have no idea how that went because I was outside. I am, but anyway, yeah. So we had that kind of a eventful thing, and it was another one of those classic southwest to northeast moving storms. So it kind of came across Cleveland and Lincoln and into Catawba County. Speaking of Cleveland and Lincoln, I guess it is official now. Burke Weather Incorporated does now cover Gaston, Lincoln, and Cleveland County also. So we are taking over for Amber, who has moved on to her new big important job at AccuWeather. So that's now official. I guess I'll go ahead and say that on the show. I don't really have anything else to add to this discussion. We'll get into more of our severe weather potential and flooding as we go on. But before that, we'll go all the way down east as we're kind of short on crew members tonight. We do have a couple more, I think, that are going to try to join here shortly. So we did invite little Austin back onto the show again. He's been doing some very intelligent discussions with us, so we decided just to go ahead and bring him on tonight with the crew. But he said he was on his way home from Bladenboro or somewhere to that effect, and he should be here a little bit later. So, but in the meantime, Russell, tell us about what's going on down east. Any excitement you guys had this week?
Good evening, everybody. I'm Russell with Severe Weather Eastern North Carolina, and we cover basically all of Central and Eastern North Carolina. The weather's been very beachy, I guess. The sun's out, nice temperature, the water's warming up. We'll have big changes coming starting tomorrow through the weekend, and we'll talk about that this evening. We'll send it back to Scotty.
Yeah, thank you. And we got Ricky around, and Ricky's back up in Virginia, and he's having some technical difficulties, so you may microphone and camera, but he is back in Virginia, home for summer break from UNC Charlotte. So from time to time, we'll see Ricky pop in as well. We'll mention Kenneth Reese not available tonight as he's covering some stuff for Watauga Roads. There's Ricky. He's popping up a little sign that says hi. So, yeah, Kenneth Reese not available for. Go ahead.
I was gonna say I think Ricky's gonna give us the Weather Brains 404 Mike Morgan treatment and drop the cue cards on us tonight.
That he is. He is. So, Kenneth Reese not available tonight. Matt is moving back into his house from UNC Charlotte. He lives in Mid Hills, so he hopefully towards the end of the show. We're also missing Daniel Crawley, who does a lot of sports writing for the McDowell newspaper. So I know he's busy. He's going to try to come in this evening as well. So sorry about the.
By the way, Matt says anybody that wants to come help him move, free beer.
That's right. So go see Matt. Mid Hill. I don't know the address, but sure we can find it somehow. Just for a moving truck. There you go. So, anyways, that's kind of the program. And Austin, as Joey said, Austin will also be along as well. So, I don't know how long the program is going to run tonight. We might actually wrap up before 9 o'clock. We'll just have to see how the discussion goes. But we've had a pretty dry period for the last 10 or so days with temperatures in the 80s and 90s and some days with mostly sunny skies, like Joey said, rounds of some afternoon thunderstorms that some went severe. Had one up in Avery County a couple of days ago that dumped so much that they said it loaded up there. So, but besides the pop-up thunderstorms, the weather's been relatively quiet. But that's about to change, and change in a big way, as we see the potential for flash flooding and severe weather. In fact, the National Weather Service has issued a flash flood warning for, I want to say, all counties west of I-77. Is that correct, Joey?
Flash flood watch.
Oh, I'm sorry, watch. Yes.
As far as I know,
not yet. No warnings yet.
Yeah, as far as I know, it's everything west of 77. So.
All right, so that sounds.
And normally this is where Ricky chimes in with exactly what it is, because he's always the man with the plan and knows all the information. So right. That was probably him beeping right there to somebody.
Actually, that was me trying to get my cat away from here so I could actually talk without it running in front of us. But yeah, flash flood watch in effect for all counties west of 77. Russell, do you guys have any flash flood watches or I guess just watches right now down to your area?
The only thing right now is there's just a hazard statement by the National Weather Service of the potential for severe weather. And, of course, the threat, it's relatively small, but it only takes one to make it a rough night or day. And the flash flooding potential is there, but it's more of a localized area compared to what the western part of the state could experience.
Yeah, and talking of that flash flooding, we've been watching some computer model data come in for the past couple of days, and it looks like Interstate 77 onto the North Carolina-Tennessee borderline looks like anybody's fair game to see 2 to 3 inches of rain, and then locally higher amounts, especially up along the Blue Ridge Mountains as you have upslope from the Gulf and the Atlantic, just ringing out all potential moisture that's available in the atmosphere. So, by this time tomorrow, we are expected, at least I am, expect to see a few flash flood warnings just because of the potential of some heavy rain throughout the area. And we also have a very slight chance of some severe weather. So to kind of talk about the dynamics of that, that's kind of the overview. I want to turn it over to Joey, who has been monitoring the situation today, and he can give us an update.
I really haven't. No. Anyway, paying a little bit of attention. We actually got together last night. Excuse me. Talked through a little bit of stuff and kind of tried to get an idea, maybe what we thought was going to happen. On the severe weather side, I mean, just keeping it in simple layman's terms, without getting too in depth into everything. The system, some models were showing it trying to turn a little bit negative tilt, which would enhance our chances of severe weather here. I haven't looked at the last few model runs. I got busy this afternoon, but and that might have changed. But unfortunately, it looks like, unfortunately for severe weather fans, it looks like a lot of cloud cover stuff is going to start rolling in early, as in late tonight, and then that's going to pretty much cut off any chances we have of any severe weather. If for some reason we get a little bit of sun tomorrow, then maybe we'll have a chance to maybe get a little bit of severe weather. But again, I highly doubt that. It looks like I think rain's going to really overspread the area tonight, and it looks pretty heavy. In fact, excuse me again. I saw our friend Brad Panovich's in-house Futurecast model this evening. Caught my eye when it actually put out a reading of over 6 inches of rain for Hickory. I did catch that. That would definitely cause some flooding issues. That would be 6 inches of rain in about a 24-hour period. So it wouldn't be it wouldn't be the flooding rains that like we saw back last summer. I don't want anybody to freak out on that because I know that's something that everybody thinks about around here. But it would cause a lot of streams. You know, those areas that are known to flood when we get heavy rain, those areas would likely see some flooding. We'll also probably see some flooding around the rivers as the Duke Power tries to release some of the dams.
Yeah, I saw that as well, Joey. The reading from Brad's in-house model run data. So, and that's been fairly accurate throughout this year. So, very big potential of some flooding in the western part of the state. But over in the eastern part of the state, you guys are kind of maybe going to deal with the severe weather threat more because you probably will get to see a little sunshine before the clouds move in. That was your toss, Russell. It's up to you.
Sorry, internet's in and out still. So let's time it out. I have pulled up a model called NAM, which is I like using NAM as the short-term model because it's has a very good history of predicting very accurately. So let's time it out. This is NAM's surface reflectivity of what the radar may look like beginning at midnight Thursday, and you can see the line of storms extending all the way from central Tennessee all the way down to Louisiana. So as we forward this by morning, we can see the storms, of course, will die out as we lose the daytime heating, approach the mountains of North Carolina. And then as we head into Thursday, we'll have to watch these individual cells develop ahead of the main line, which is the cold front, and to see if any of these will have any strong updraft to produce any rotation or small hail. Then as we get into the day on Thursday, we'll see more of the scattered thunderstorms ahead of the main front, which will conceal into a solid line as we head into Friday morning. And the timing of this front is very crucial. If it waits later in the day, we'll get more sunshine for parts of eastern North Carolina, which could destabilize the atmosphere and cause more energy to develop. And as we head into the day on Friday, we have the solid line of storms that could potentially be severe with gusty winds up to 58 miles per hour and or a weak tornado if any of these storms decides to break up or develop ahead of the main line. And then we should have everything move out by late Friday night into Saturday morning.
Russell, I haven't seen the National Weather Service's discussion. What did they mention about severe weather in their discussion, their hazardous outlook, or their discussion?
Their outlook. Let me pull that up real quick. It will depend on what part of the state you're in. For this side of the state, for eastern North Carolina, mainly from Raleigh to Cape Hatteras and all cities' points end, they're just talking for widespread rainfall, 1 to 3 inches of rain, and the chance for strong thunderstorms, mainly from late Thursday evening into Friday morning, with the potential for damaging winds or an isolated tornado. And of course, the timing of this front is very crucial. If you get it to come through at night, there won't be much instability for the storms to really hold their strength if any does develop.
So they did actually, they did mention the chance of tornadoes in their discussion. That's what I was kind of curious about.
Right, and I'm going to quote this from the National Weather Service of Newport, where there could be some cyclone genesis across the area associated with the strong, moist, low-level flow that will that could bring a small, isolated threat of tornadoes. There could also be the possibility of strong, gusty winds and frequent lightning associated with the thunderstorm. So if we get a low pressure to develop along this front, which the models has been picking this up very well over the last few days, so I guess that will be the kicker for these storms to get going.
Yeah, and I can go ahead and tell you, as I'm the furthest west than any of you guys, the cloud deck's already moved in here at the here in Morganton. So I really don't see severe weather threat for anybody west of Interstate 77. But as the front moves through, the eastern parts definitely has the highest threats for severe weather. Now, one thing that Russell was talking about is the possibility of once that front comes through, it has a chance, Joey, of kind of stalling out or moving very slowly, and that's where the biggest of the heaviest rain for all of the state lies because of that front moving through so slowly, and we get an event called training, and basically what that is a cell that moves through over the same area time after time after time, just kind of like it was back in Catawba County last year. You just had heavy rain training over the same area, so that's the biggest threat here in the western part of the state is that front slowly, and I mean slowly moving through, flooding. Joey, I think 12 to 16 hours of maybe some solid rain for us. Is that what we're looking at?
Yeah, that's kind of what I saw. And I noticed, it was a lot of it was going to come in little waves as that front sort of stalled out. We were going to have little waves of low pressure that we're going to ride along that front. Each one would bring an enhancement of rain. So we might have some really heavy rain for a couple of hours, slack off for an hour or two, and then maybe another, heavy rain for an hour or two. But these were all happening over the same areas, somewhere right along the foothills in that general vicinity. Just like a snowstorm, will be in the same kind of setup where, that heavy rain is hard to say where it's going to happen. Just like a heavy snow band, it could set up right over Catawba County. It could be a little bit west over Burke County. It could be a little bit more east, Iredell County, the I-77 area. So, that's a little up in there. Everybody's going to see rain. There's no doubt about that. But there's probably going to be a narrow band of 4 to 5 inches of rain somewhere.
Trying to.
Yeah, it would highly depend on where the storms train over the same area. If the front slows down, that would be the key of where the heaviest rain would fall.
Make Ricky call us back into conference. I was trying to share Ricky's forecast. I just can't get the screen share to work the right way, so let me try this one. See that?
Close.
I'm going to read it to you. It says, Ricky's forecast, North Carolina, Charlotte and West, heavy rain for Thursday and Thursday night. I-77 West, I-77 and West has the highest threat of some flooding. Turn around, don't drown, and he's made a little illustration right here. So there you go. Turn around, don't drown. And then the other side, or eastern North Carolina, some strong feisty winds, isolated tornado. Central North Carolina with isolated supercells, I think is what that says. Flash flood watches for I-77 and West. And then for Virginia, the main line, you got to watch the timing if you live in Virginia. Watch for some gusty storms with the isolated tornado possible. Follow Ricky on Twitter at WXRJM. There you go. I hope I got that all right, Ricky. In his head, so I did. All right.
I don't think my mic's working still.
Oh yes, your mic is working. We hear you.
Oh, finally! There
yes,
gotcha.
You are loud and clear.
Hey, you can just talk about what I talked about. Go ahead.
Well, I mean, I've seen my friends on TV do it before when their weather systems crashed, so I was like, we might as well improvise here and get a forecast sheet out. But as Scotty pretty much mentioned, he covered all the basics. Joey mentioned the flash flood watch was up for basically areas I-77 westbound. That'll probably be where we had the highest risks of flash flooding due to previous rains over the past couple of days, and also the potential for some training, is where the storms kind of move along the same areas over and over and over again, just like train cars on a track. That's why we call it training. So we'll probably see some of that, and historically, the Charlotte area does seem to get those training cells that move over. I don't know why, whether it's like a little meso forecasting zone there or something, but it wouldn't shock me to see a small flood risk there in the Charlotte area, especially along our creeks and streams, which usually come up pretty quickly no matter how much rain we get. Eastern North Carolina, it was interesting to look at some of the dynamics for severe weather. I looked at some what we call hodographs, or the turning of the winds with height, earlier today, and some of them were showing some pretty favorable conditions for some tornadoes or severe weather tomorrow afternoon, especially across the Roanoke Rapids area. But it'll be an issue of timing, whether we can get the storms to initiate in there before the best dynamics go away and the cooler, moist, unstable air goes away. But to not count down for that, we did have a tornado warning earlier today in Alabama that kind of spun up in the middle of a huge rain mass. It was a nice couplet on there, but interesting to see. So here in Virginia, where I currently am in the eastern part of the state, I have an air show on Friday, so I'm really hoping it doesn't rain, but I think we're going to have a nice little line of precip coming through, especially probably starting in the morning hours towards some of our western counties, towards Surrey, Sussex, and then progressing east as we go through the morning, hopefully clearing out around 2 o'clock or so. As Russell mentioned, it'll all depend on timing, and we'll narrow that down a little bit more tomorrow when we get some of our high-resolution models in range. So.
Also had a couple of tornadoes in Ohio today.
Yeah, a lot of tornadoes in Ohio.
Yeah. Some of them are definitely confirmed. I saw pictures on the ground tornadoes, so they weren't just radar indicated today. That's for sure.
Yeah, so let's kind of talk about the differences. Tomorrow, I just have a feeling, just like Ricky said, the flooding threat's going to be there, and it seems like we can be so confused, and it's not to our fault or the National Weather Service, I don't think. Maybe you guys will disagree, but we'll probably hear a flash flood warning tomorrow. We'll probably hear a flood warning, a small stream advisory, urban flood advisory, stuff like that. What are the differences in those, and how do we need to treat those?
I can take that if you want. Basically, it all comes down to time and duration. Flash flood watches are meant for quickly developing flooding situations that almost most people pop up without warning. This is your summertime heavy rainfall where you get 2 inches of rain, and an hour and a half where those thunderstorms just sit there and pour down rain and cause the flooding issues along the roads and everything, and a lot of the creeks in North Carolina as well. River flood warnings or flood warnings, depending on what they decide to issue, are usually reserved for longer duration events where the flooding may persist for a long period of time or come from rainfall that falls over a period, I think it's actually 6 hours or higher is the definition for a flood warning versus a flash flood warning. Personally, to me, they're all water. It doesn't matter, just like a tornado or straight line winds taking your house apart. It doesn't really matter which one causes it. There's still a wind and they still cause damage. And it's the same with floods. Urban and small stream flood advisory, which you mentioned, are usually reserved for minor flooding events that may flood, just some small areas of land, 1 or 2 creeks or roads that always seem to flood whenever we have flooding events or something like that. So.
And definitely, you being in the Charlotte area over this past year, what are some of the locations that we can expect to see flooding in the Charlotte area? And I can kind of talk about the locations here in our county, or the western part of the county as well.
The Mallard Creek area always seems to have some amount of flooding somewhere along the little boundary. There's another road up in Cabarrus County. I forget the name of it. If you scroll back to my Twitter feed, not a self-promotion, but there are pictures of when it flooded last on there, and has the address. And then there's another few creeks over towards the in the university area, over near the amphitheater where they have all the concerts, and then over on campus at Toby Creek that sometimes floods if we get rain. This doesn't seem like one of those events where we get 10 inches of rain in 24 hours, or maybe 6 inches of rain in a shorter amount of time, or even 3 inches of rain in 8 hours or something. But it'll probably be a duration event where our creeks and streams go up later in the afternoon. Those isolated spots that always flood seem to flood. So.
Yeah, and I can kind of talk about Burke, and then I'll let Joey talk about Catawba. In the Burke County area, we have our greenway that runs right through the town, right through the middle of our town. So that location always floods with the Catawba River, as well as out on Johns River. That's another notorious spot where floods. We actually have several. We have like 2 campgrounds over there, and then a mobile home park that always seems to be evacuated during these heavy rain events. Wilson's Creek area floods up into Caldwell County, Collettsville area up in Caldwell County floods. Over towards the Glen Lake James filters into the Catawba River. Always another place that deals with flooding. So, Chris put out on our website earlier today, those flood-prone areas. You know who you are, you know your locations. So just have a plan in place if you were to experience some rapid water rise.
Yeah, the same way with my county. There's everybody here, you pretty much know who you are that has the issues. The Carpenter's Cove area of the river, every time the Oxford Dam is opened, Riverbend Park down to Carpenter's Cove, all of that area, it floods every time. And then once they open Lookout Shoals Dam, down from that area, I can't remember what that's called, but that area through there, it constantly floods. That's our fishing spot, and we can fish from the roads at times. It's been so bad, but those areas are your typical areas that flood. I don't think we're going to see a lot of flooding in a lot of the creeks like we had last time. Some of them you guys already know who you are. Along the South Fork and a couple of those other bigger streams, those areas that typically flood. And a lot of that floods out into farmland, and no houses are really in any danger with those. But like I said, in my county, we don't have a lot of areas that do it, but the ones that do, it happens a lot, and they know who they are, and I'm sure they'll be ready for that potential if it does happen.
And Russell, not to put you on the spot or anything, but it's kind of reverse of what we're talking about. If you were to target a zone tomorrow that you think has the highest threat of some severe weather, where would that be?
That's kind of tricky at the moment. Of course, there's time to look at everything, but if I give a target, I would say mostly along and east of 95. So from Wilmington to even here on the Crystal Coast, the Goldsboro area, maybe parts of northeastern parts of the state like Elizabeth City and Gates.
Wow, Russell, that's completely different than every other forecast this year, right? No, not at all.
I was getting ready to ask this question, and Russell, I think you'd be able to give us the answer since you live down in those areas. How are the areas recuperating from the previous tornado outbreaks that's been out there?
Well, the bad news is that we did lose, of course, we mentioned this before, that there was one death reported with the 11-month-old baby up in northeastern part of the state. And the other bad news is that federal aid was denied for most of those areas that was hit with the tornado. So basically everybody's on their own, and hopefully they have insurance.
Yeah, I can just imagine, because that was still just a couple weeks ago. I'm sure that a lot of people who maybe even suffered damage to their house, maybe is not totally destroyed, but did suffer damage, maybe roofs and stuff, I'm assuming they probably haven't had the chance to get all that fixed before this next round of active weather.
Russell, have you heard about state aid? I'm sure that the state is chipping in. Less people aren't going to be completely left with zero aid. Obviously, the federal aid covers a lot that the state doesn't, but has Governor McCrory, has he guaranteed, promised those people that there would be some sort of aid from the state at least?
Yeah, at least something to help them. I mean, of course, nobody goes alone trying to do stuff around here, and we're good for helping each other.
I'm going to throw this to Ricky. Kind of something we haven't really talked about. This system kind of has, I'm not going to say a tropical look to it, but it does actually have a lot of characteristics that coming from the tropics, Ricky. And what does that do to an ordinary system that we deal with this time of the year? I mean, the ordinary cold front we're normally not too worried about with heavy rains, but now with the tropical influence coming in from the Gulf and the Atlantic, what does that do to the system?
Ricky might have stepped away for a second. He's on mute.
you may have. Well, Joey, I'm gonna
I'll cover it the best I can there. And Ricky is definitely the guy who's still in school and probably can go into much more detail with things than I can. But basically, what it means is, the tropics are more humid. There's more moisture. Normally, a cold front that comes through, it kind of sweeps through. We don't have a deep surge of tropical moisture. This cold front, and if I remember correctly, there was some leftover tropical moisture that was a Pacific storm maybe that crossed over, and some of that, I don't remember now. I wasn't paying that close attention. All I know is that we got a really deep surge of a lot of tropical moisture coming out of the Gulf with this one, and that's why we're having so much heavy rains. But that's what has us so worried about the rainfall, is just because there's so much moisture from the Gulf so far this year. Again, if you back up to our severe weather we had the other week, or lack of severe weather that we had the other week, what happened was we didn't have that surge of Gulf moisture. We didn't get that. It got kind of cut off, and then some of the clouds also helped stabilize the atmosphere. So that kind of hurt us a little bit there. But this time it looks as of now that it's going to be an open beltway. Looks like we're going to have plenty of moisture to work with this time. And if Ricky's back, I'll let him kind of go into a little bit more detail and elaborate on that.
If my mic's still working, I can. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
All right, cool. Yeah, I thought that's what you all were talking about. I actually stepped out for a second and walked back in. The last time, we basically had a big giant wall blocking any moisture return to come up into our region. So we had the dynamics to create storms. We just didn't have any moisture to create them. And then we also had that darn wedge boundary sitting around us too, which didn't really help much either. This time, at least on most of the models we're looking at and looking at the current radar trends, it seems like we're actually going to get the moisture return Joey mentioned back up into our region. There was a model that's called the INCEP WRF. It's just a WRF is a model that runs off a previous model, in this term that runs off the NAM, and it takes all that data and kind of reruns it again. So it's almost like when you go back over your math test, making sure you didn't make any mistakes. It's kind of doing that again and seeing if it can pick out those mistakes and try to fix them. And last time, it did very well on the rain system. It actually showed no rain over Charlotte, and our moisture got stuck down in the Gulf of Mexico. So I think this time we will see the moisture return come up from the Gulf and hopefully allow us to get some rain, because we do need a little bit of rain across the area. We don't need flooding rains, but we do need a bit of rain across the region.
Yeah, it does. It seems like this time we don't have, like you just said, that wall blocking the moisture that's going to move up into the area. I think we got Austin. I don't know if he's ready yet, but I see Austin's into the picture. So, Austin, if you're ready to talk, let me know by putting your face on the camera so we can see you. Maybe he's not ready yet. But yeah, the tropical influence, and then I guess, Russell, the tropical influence for your part of the area is just making the atmosphere just a little bit more moist for some storm development.
Yeah, we get that southeast winds off the Atlantic Ocean. The Gulf Stream really just streams in that heavy, deep moisture that will tap into this thunderstorm, so it will just produce torrential rainfall over the area. So spotty flash flooding here and there in open farmlands or near construction sites is possible late tomorrow into Friday morning.
Yeah, and what Ricky was saying, we definitely need some rain around here because it needs to wash this pollen away.
One of the things with this event is if you've looked at what we call precipitable water values, precipitable water is basically if you took the whole storm from the surface up to the top of it, and you rained every drop of rain out of that cell. That's how much rain you can expect from it. Some precipitable water values tomorrow afternoon and through tomorrow evening are actually over 2 inches. And so, while I don't think you're actually going to have one storm raining out completely over you, when you get all of those storms with the same precipitable water values and they move over and over you again, to me, that first implies heavy rainfall, heavy downpours, and it also implies the risk for heavy rainfall accumulation. So that's one of the little forecasting tricks we can use as we go, trying to figure out if there's going to be heavy rain this time around or not. also going off the moisture return from the Gulf. So kind of a little bit insider forecast there, Scotty.
Yeah, definitely. That's something that that we were talking a little bit about last night while we were talking about the system. So, anything you guys want to hit on? I mean, I think we've pretty much covered the event. Look for some heavy rain west of 77, and then an isolated severe threat to the east. Flash flood watches up for locations along Interstate 77 and west. I think the National Weather Service said 3 to 5 inches of rain. I'm not totally sure what they said on that, but looking at all the data, looking at all the model data, I see at least a good 2.5 to 3 inches of rain for our areas with locally higher. So, you guys have anything else you want to mention or talk about with the system?
I don't think so. If we do get a big amount of severe weather, we'll maybe try to do a live stream like we did a few days ago with severe weather coverage. I have to work it out and see if I've got the setup to do that or not, but I'm more than happy to help out if we get some type of severe weather and do some live stream or something like that.
Yeah, that's something that we're going to try to work on throughout the next couple of weeks or whenever we get severe weather. We test ran it a couple of weeks ago with the tornadoes out in Arkansas, and Joey, you said it got a pretty big response, so something that we're going to try to be doing throughout the spring, late spring and summer days is trying to do some nowcasting or broadcasting or however you want to put it that way. So that's something to look forward to. Russell, are you gonna get out there and chase any if you get the opportunity?
Well, I'm available tomorrow to go out, but we'll have to see what the models look like in the morning. Of course, it can be as far inland as Goldsboro, or I can just hang out here and wait for it to come to me.
In other words, when gas was $1.09 a gallon, Russell would be chasing storms tomorrow.
It's much higher on this side of the state, I'm telling you.
Tourist area, I know all about that.
It's like $3.75 for gas.
Yeah, $3.75 a gallon means that setup didn't look quite as enticing as it did at $1.09 a gallon. That's what that means.
It means not chasing the state tax area.
In North Carolina, we don't
come hit here first.
In North Carolina, we don't chase moderates. You should know that by now, Ricky.
I do. I've been busted twice on those.
You gotta chase the C-Tex now.
You do. We had that event. What was it? The December 26, 2012, Russell, I think. Tornado risk in Eastern Carolina. That thing busted horribly too, at least where I was.
Yeah, and so we've kind of put this together in the audience that's watching. Next couple of weeks, I guess we can kind of talk about some of the shows we're wanting to talk about. I know Ricky, and we're going to try to get some other guys from another page that we're part of, kind of come in and talk about storm chasing, the risk of it, and how you do want to take all the safety precautions. We are going to talk about the upcoming hurricane season with Russell around the June 1st area when the hurricane season officially starts for the Atlantic Basin. We're also going to have storm warning coordinator from the National Weather Service in Greenville-Spartanburg, Tony Story, on in the next couple of weeks to kind of talk about what his job is, and he's a very important man because he's the one that issues all the warnings and for the tornadoes and severe storms and flooding and stuff like that. So that's kind of a rundown of what's to come. We always take suggestions and what you guys would like for us to talk about on this show because it's for your knowledge. We kind of know this stuff already, that we're just kind of talking about it to let you guys know, kind of know what's going to happen. So anytime that you have a suggestion of what you want the show to be about, shoot us a message on our Facebook page or on our individual pages or Twitter, and we can definitely schedule something for that. So with that,
or if you know someone that you would like for us to get on as a guest, if you have contact information for them, we'll be glad to talk to them so they want to come on the show.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, we'll definitely do that. We're going to definitely be working on that. And with Ricky being up in Virginia now, maybe he can reach out to some of the meteorologists up there as well and get them on. So With that, it's 8:40. Do you guys have anything else you want to talk about, or we want to kind of wrap up? Or I know we got your rant. I know we got Joey's rant. We'll save that for last. But anything else you guys kind of want to touch on before we kind of wrap up and let Joey do his rant? Take it as a note.
Oh, release the dogs.
Everybody wants to hear it. That's what it is.
All right. Well, let's start. We'll start with Ricky. We'll start for the most northeast place, and then we'll go to Russell, and then we'll end up with Joey. So, Ricky, I'll let you go first, bud.
All right, up in Virginia for the next couple of days. Thursday probably going to be, except for maybe an isolated shower or storm pop up in the afternoon. We do have some heavy fog right now across some of our coastal locations across the peninsula. It's interesting, the fog rolled in. It was hovering over the Chesapeake Bay all day long, and it finally rolled in through the afternoon hours. Traveling across our tunnels was a little fun this afternoon with the fog. Tourists who don't know how to drive through the tunnel. Anyway, we'll probably see the heavy rain move in Thursday night into Friday morning, maybe a little bit wet, and then depending on the timing, we'll have to watch Friday afternoon, especially across the eastern portions of Virginia and Northeast Carolina to see what storm risks we have as well. So with that, I'll throw it down south to Russell.
All right, thanks, Ricky. Forecast for most of central and eastern North Carolina. I'll try to average it out for everybody. Tonight, partly cloudy, lows in the mid to upper 60s to low 70. Tomorrow, we'll see the chance for rain and storms to develop from southwest to northeast. Mainly after 2 p.m., highs in the low to mid 80s. Thursday night, a lot of heavy rain, heavy thunderstorms. Some could be strong, some could produce heavy rain. Watch out for flash flooding. Lows in the low to up mid 60s to maybe near 70 along the coast. Friday, we'll watch these storms in from west to east. Maybe some clearing by Friday night, and we'll toss it over to Scotty.
Yeah, thanks, guys. Here in the western part of the state with McDowell and Burke and Caldwell and Catawba and Lincoln and Gaston and Cleveland and whoever else we got. We're looking at the threat of heavy rain continue throughout the day tomorrow. A very slight chance of a scattered strong storm or something like that, but I think the biggest thing is going to be the flooding possibility. So if you live in a low elevated area or a flood-prone area, make sure that you have that emergency kit ready to go just in case we were to see a rise in water and you would need to evacuate your home. You can follow us on Burke weather, Catawba County weather, Caldwell weather, and McDowell weather. Sign up for our text alerts as we'll issue flood warnings and advisories. You can follow us on Twitter too at WX, I think. And definitely just keep up with us throughout the day tomorrow. Trying to think, anything else? I think we're good. After tomorrow, we clear out for Friday and Saturday. We kind of cool off into the low 70s, and then starting back next week, we warm back up into the mid to upper 70s by Monday and Tuesday, and then back into the 80s after that. So a slight cool down period after this system moves through, but we'll be back to some warm weather after that. So, Joey, it's all yours, my friend.
All right. I see Austin's kind of in and out over there, so if he has something to add, we'll let him jump in here. We kind of teased on the Facebook pages and Twitter pages earlier today. Some of you might have seen it. We kind of teased a little bit about what my rant was going to be about this evening. And I actually showed a screenshot of a conversation that one lady was having with her local station up in Ohio during tornado coverage. But basically, it happens everywhere. There's a viral video running around this week also of a news anchor who basically went off on a rant just like I'm about to right now. So she might have done it better than me. So if you want to go find that, go look for it. But what I'm going to tell you is I see it all the time. It happens every time. I know Ricky has spent some time at NBC Charlotte, and I know that he could probably tell you all about this. He's heard it, seen it firsthand. We all have. I wish we had somebody like Brad Panovich or our friends Grant Gilmore, Tim Buckley, some of those guys on tonight, so they can tell you all about it. But every time they break in for severe weather coverage, they usually only break in if it's a very serious situation. Anytime there's a tornado warning, they break into coverage. And unfortunately, that's going to interrupt somebody's television show. The one I saw today was Judge Judy was interrupted. And let's be honest, Judge Judy's not even a – those are reruns anyway. They don't even do that show anymore, and she was upset about missing it. But I guess that's a whole nother rant. But my point is, the news stations, they break into this coverage to save lives. You people who complain about not getting to see your soap opera, not getting to see American Idol, which I'm missing tonight. I've missed it. So we do the show every Wednesday night. But you complain about them breaking in and you missing your show. But do you realize that their coverage could save one life? One, just one. If it saved just one, and they decided to not do it so you could watch Judge Judy, how would that make you feel? I mean, stop before you start hopping on your Facebook or picking up that phone and calling somebody and doing all your complaining and moaning about missing your show. Stop and think for just 1 second. Just a second. Think about somebody other than you. I find it funny that half of these people who say, well, they break in to give me all this news coverage and there's nothing we can do about it anyway, God controls the weather. Well, if you went to church long enough to learn that God controlled the weather, you might want to sit there a little bit longer and see if you can learn about how to care for other people besides yourself, because you might have missed that part of the Bible. Scotty, if you want to jump in and do a sermon on it, you go right ahead. But we know it's in there. I don't think it's any secret that these people might want to think about that a little bit more than what they do. But my rant's a little short there. I could probably go on forever. And I'll let you guys kind of chime in on that a little bit. But I just get so tired of seeing that. I mean, it happens every single time somebody complains. Every single time. I can't recall any severe weather event where somebody didn't complain about them missing their show because the news channel is talking about a tornado near Charlotte and they live in Lincoln. And I'm like, I can sit there and maybe it's the weather geek in me because I like to watch that stuff. Okay, maybe. But I highly doubt that if I called you the next day and said, hey, you know what, we went ahead and ran your soap opera today instead of doing severe weather coverage in it. It hit a house with a kid in it who got sucked out of his bedroom and thrown out into 485. And he probably could have known it was coming, but, we didn't want to interrupt General Hospital this week. Let's have that conversation one day. But anyway, I'll let you guys kind of chime in. Austin said something earlier. If he's able to get in here now, I know he's been kind of in and out. He wanted to mention something about it, about that. So that's kind of my rant. You guys fill in your thoughts on that.
Agree, Joey. And time in our local market that there's a tornado warning out, automatically turn over to NBC Charlotte to watch coverage. But we've become a society that everything has got to be about me, and it can't be about other people. And in that situation, it's about other people, those people who are being affected by the storm. Case in point, 2 years ago when the tornado struck Eastern Burke County, the countless people who came up to told us that we got your text messages and we were watching Brad Panovich, and we wouldn't have known that storm was coming if Brad hadn't broken TV and if we hadn't got your text messages. So those things work, and they save people's lives. So if you're complaining because you missed Judge Judy or whatever, you know what? There's the internet, and you can type it in on YouTube or Hulu or whatever, and you can watch that episode. Or you can...
To be honest with you, I could care less if you ever get to see it. So there.
And
email me on that one.
In most markets where I live at, I get the Charlotte media and the Greenville, South Carolina media. So if there's something really important I want to watch on NBC and I don't want to see severe weather coverage, switch on over to the other NBC network. And there's always ways around it, but it's not about you and it's not about who or what you want to watch on TV, because newsflash, this whole earth isn't just about one person. It's about all of us and taking care of everybody. And so happen you miss a show, big deal. There's a lot of people who get saved from that coverage, and that's the way it is.
Ricky, we know that your future is probably going to be in TV meteorology. So definitely weigh in on that. I'd like to hear what you have to say.
To sum it up and not make me go on a 20-minute rant, because this show usually ends at 9 o'clock, I pretty much agree 100% with everything you guys have mentioned. I understand both sides of it, and for example, if there's this, if Carolina and Duke are playing, and we got to break in for if we break in for the last 2 minutes, where you can either still see the game, or you always try to put those special important things like primetime television on the .2 channel. A lot of times stations will rerun things that you've missed in the overnight hours towards 1 or 2 a.m. and record it, go look for it online. I understand the frustration, but TV is a wide market. For example, the Charlotte market covers areas all the way up to Burke County, I think actually past Burke County up
Watauga.
into the Boone area, Watauga County, all the way down into Rock Hill, Union, Chester, South Carolina, and as far east as Rockingham. So, while you may think your TV is only giving you weather for your house, as someone told me yesterday, when there's a 20% chance of rain and it's been raining at my house, but only my house in the whole area, they should bump that up to 100% chance of rain because it's raining. Well, yes, it's raining at your house, but your house is maybe about 20% of the demographic area. So you got to understand the wide picture here from time to time. And there are some stations who do long-form severe weather coverage where it's a little excessive, where, if there is a tornado warning, yes, you should probably be on the air. But if there's not, and it's just some random thunderstorms coming through the area, there's no need to put your Doppler Dual 5000 on there and go down to street level and find where the drops are falling, because the people already know that.
Yeah. How many times do we see that severe weather coverage and somebody actually has zoomed in and talks about where the tornado actually is, right down to the street level? And I got a good feeling the person that lives on that street is probably glad they're missing Judge Judy for the day. I could say that.
I want to comment on that real quick, because there are some stations who do that. And there was an issue back in 2011 with some radar technology, and I'm always a little cautious to get down to street level after reading some papers that Brian Peters and some of the folks at ABC 3340 in Alabama have put together. And because of how radar scans at an angle, some of those pixels where we think the couplet is can actually be displaced from time to time. So I've started to get away from the whole getting it down to street level thing, because I'm afraid that if I call off your street and you live on the street, 300 yards away, you may think, oh, well, it's not going to hit me. But in reality, the radar is not an absolute science. It can actually be displaced a little bit. So my challenge to all of you guys is to be a little critical sometimes and sensitive when you talk about street level mapping, and maybe be a little cautious when it comes down to narrowing it down to a specific street or something, because radar doesn't always work as well as it should.
Yeah, and Ricky, we actually, I think it was, maybe you wasn't here that week. We actually did discuss that. My rant, I guess, was last week, actually. We talked about on and up to mistakes, and we actually spoke of what you were speaking of with James Spann making that mistake on where the tornado was during the big outbreak in 2011, and how he did admit to that mistake, and he took responsibility for that. So we actually mentioned, just tying that anybody that watched last week knows, we're talking about actually the same event right there.
And having met James and knowing him personally, he still feels bad about that. But.
All right, well, if anybody else has anything else to add, Scotty, why don't you kind of wrap us up?
Austin, you got anything, bud?
All right, I just had one of my friends sent me a message. He said that Judge Judy still films, so that was my only comment.
Oh, yeah, Joe.
All right.
All right. Well, for everyone, thanks to Austin and Joey and Rick and Russell being on tonight. Thank you guys for tuning in, and just be weather ready tomorrow. Take any flood warning or advisory seriously, if you're in the eastern part of the state, take any severe weather warning, severe thunderstorm warning, or tornado warning seriously. Make sure that thing I'll point out and speak for Russell because I think he probably likes this too, and I know Joey and I do. If you're able to and you're safe enough, go ahead and send us some pictures in of what you're seeing in your backyard if you get flooding or anything like that. So stay safe out there, and we want to see you back here next Wednesday. For everyone, for Carolina's weather discussion, I'm meteorologist Scotty Powell. Have a good night.
But pause for a second. Austin, what is your school name? Harnett Central Middle School? Yeah. What do you guys think I say at the end of the show every week? It ain't popsicle. It ain't pop. It's bicycle. Bicycle.